They say you never really know someone. But I thought I did. I thought I knew every freckle on his back, every story from his childhood, every dream he whispered to me in the dark. I was wrong. So catastrophically, humiliatingly wrong that when I finally found that phone, tucked into a rolled-up pair of socks in the back of his gym bag, I actually laughed. Not a happy laugh. The kind of laugh that comes when your brain can't process the sheer magnitude of betrayal, so it short-circuits into something that sounds like joy but tastes like battery acid. 47 women. 3 children. Not 3 children with me. We don't have kids. 3 children I didn't know existed. Children who call him daddy in videos I found on that phone. Children with his eyes, his smile, his goddamn dimples. My name is Sarah, and this is the story of how I went from being a devoted wife to becoming a forensic accountant of lies, a private investigator of infidelity, and eventually the orchestrator of the most spectacular downfall a cheating husband has ever experienced. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it all began. Or at least where I thought it began. But right now, sitting on the cold tile of our bathroom floor at 2:30 in the morning, I'm scrolling through a digital graveyard of lies. And every swipe brings a new name, a new face, a new woman who thought she knew my husband better than I did. They were all wrong, just like I was. Let me take you back to where this really started. Not 6 days ago when I found the phone. That was just the moment the dam broke. No. This started 3 years ago on what should have been the worst day of my life. It was a Tuesday. Tuesdays are always slow in the pediatric unit. Parents bring their kids in on Mondays after symptoms develop over the weekend. And by Tuesday, we're mostly dealing with follow-ups and the occasional emergency. I remember the specific shade of fluorescent lighting in the break room, that sickly green-white that makes everyone look like they're auditioning for a zombie movie. I was eating a turkey sandwich, dry because I'd forgotten mayo again, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something in me, intuition, fate, whatever you want to call it, made me pick up. Is this Sarah Mitchell? The voice was female, young, shaking. Yes, who's this? You don't know me. A pause, heavy breathing. But I know your husband, I think. I think you need to know something. My first thought wasn't suspicion, it was concern. In my line of work, you get calls like this sometimes, confused patients, worried parents who got your personal number somehow. Okay, I said slowly. What is it? My name is Jessica. I've been seeing David for 8 months. The sandwich dropped. I remember watching it fall in slow motion, how the bread separated from the turkey, how it landed face down on my scrubs, leaving a smear of mustard across my thigh that looked like a wound. Excuse me? I'm so sorry. She was crying now. I didn't know he was married. Not at first. He said, God, it sounds so stupid now. He said he was divorced, that he had primary custody of his daughter. He showed me pictures of her at his apartment. He said her name was Emma. We don't have a daughter. We don't have children at all. A fact that had been the quiet grief of our marriage, the elephant in every room, the reason we'd spent thousands on fertility treatments that never worked. This is a mistake, I said, but my voice didn't sound convincing, even to myself. I saw his wedding ring yesterday. He'd taken it off, but there was a tan line. I confronted him. He left so fast he forgot his wallet. When I looked inside, she broke off. Your picture was in there. You and him. And on the back, you'd written forever yours, Sarah. I had written that. 7 years ago, on our wedding day, on a photograph we'd taken by the lake where he proposed. I'd slipped it into his wallet as a surprise. I don't understand, I whispered. And I didn't. David was an accountant, a boring, dependable accountant who wore the same 3 ties in rotation and fell asleep during action movies. He wasn't the type to have affairs. He wasn't the type to do anything remotely interesting. I'm calling because... Jessica's voice hardened. Because I found out there are others. He's on dating apps, multiple ones. I saw his phone. Sarah, I counted at least 10 conversations. Active conversations. And those were just the ones I saw before he grabbed the phone away. The break room tilted. Or maybe I did. I have to go, I said. Wait. I hung up. Then I threw up in the trash can. I called David immediately. He answered on the first ring, which should have been my first clue. David never answered on the first ring. He was always in a meeting or on another call or mysteriously unavailable, despite working a desk job. Hey, babe. His voice was cheerful. Too cheerful. What's up? Where are you right now? At work. Why? Is everything okay? I need you to come home right now. A pause. I could hear typing in the background. He was multitasking, even during this. Sarah, I'm in the middle of closing out the quarterly reports. Can it wait until... Do you know someone named Jessica? Silence. The typing stopped. Who? Jessica. Young. Thinks she's been dating you for 8 months. Sarah, I have no idea what you're talking about. Did someone call you? Is this some kind of scam? His confusion sounded genuine. That's what made it so devastating. He was good. Really good. She described you, David. She has your wallet. What? I haven't lost my... More silence. Then, oh my God, someone stole my wallet last week at the gym. I reported it, filed a police report and everything. Did this Jessica person steal my identity? Sarah, we need to call the police. It was brilliant, really. A complete story, delivered without hesitation. I could almost see him sitting at his desk, mind racing, pulling together this narrative like he pulled together tax returns. Numbers always added up for David. That was his gift. Come home, I repeated. I will, tonight, I promise. But I really can't leave right now. Henderson is breathing down my neck about these. Now, David, or I'm packing your things. I heard him exhale. Okay, give me an hour. He showed up in 45 minutes. That should have been another clue. When I confronted him in our living room, our beautiful, carefully decorated living room with the throw pillows I'd spent hours choosing and the wedding photos on every surface, he didn't crack, not even close. He held my hands, looked into my eyes with those warm brown eyes I'd fallen in love with in college. Sarah, I swear on everything we have never cheated on you. This woman, whoever she is either confused or malicious. Maybe both. She knew about the picture in your wallet. The wallet that was stolen. She probably found it, saw the picture, and created this whole fantasy. Baby, you know me. Do I seem like the kind of guy who could juggle multiple women? He laughed when he said it. Actually laughed. And the horrible thing? I laughed too, because he was right. David was many things, but smooth wasn't one of them. He wore Costco jeans. He had a gut that hung over his belt. He quoted Star Trek at inappropriate moments. The idea of him as some kind of Casanova was absurd. She said you told her you were divorced, that you had a daughter named Emma. And where is this Emma? Where's my secret apartment? Sarah, think about it. I'm here every night. We share a bank account. You have my phone password. When would I even have time to maintain some double life? That was the thing. He was right. David came home every night at 6:15. We ate dinner together, watched Netflix, went to bed. On weekends, we ran errands, visited my parents, did yard work. His life was documented in real time through our joint calendar, our shared credit cards, our intertwined existence. Show me your phone, I said. He handed it over without hesitation. Look at whatever you want. I did. I looked at everything. Text messages, mostly from me, some from his mom, a group chat with his college buddies about fantasy football. Dating apps, none. Suspicious photos, none. His email was boring work correspondence and spam. His call log showed exactly what you'd expect from a man who spent his days in a cubicle. Nothing. There was absolutely nothing. I'm sorry, I finally said, feeling ridiculous. When she called, she sounded so certain. Hey. He pulled me into his arms. He smelled like the same cologne he'd worn since college, something woody and familiar. You're not crazy for checking. If some guy called me claiming to have been with you, I'd want answers too. But Sarah, you're it for me. You're the only woman I want. The only woman I've ever wanted since the day we met in that horrible economics class. I laughed into his chest, remembering. He'd been the teaching assistant. I'd been failing spectacularly. Our first date was a study session that turned into dinner, then drinks, then breakfast the next morning. He'd made me laugh by doing impressions of our pretentious professor. I'd fallen for him right there, in that dingy college bar, over cheap beer and cheaper nachos. "I love you," I said. "I love you more." We had sex that night. Gentle, reassuring sex that felt like a renewal of vows. He held me after, stroking my hair, and I felt safe. Completely, utterly safe. I was such a fool. The thing about gaslighting is that it works. For 3 years after that phone call, I convinced myself Jessica was either mistaken or disturbed. David and I went to couples therapy, his idea, which seemed like proof of innocence. We worked on trust issues and communication. The therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Chen, helped me understand my anxiety, my tendency to catastrophize. "Sometimes," she said during one session, "our fears create evidence where there is none. The mind is powerful, Sarah. It can take a grain of truth and construct an entire beach." David nodded along, held my hand, played the role of the supportive husband wounded by unfair suspicion. And I believed it? God help me, I believed every word. We even renewed our vows on our 10th anniversary, 2 years after Jessica's call. Small ceremony, just family and close friends on the same lake where he'd proposed. I wore a cream-colored dress. He cried during his vows. Everyone said it was beautiful. The photos from that day are still on our wall. Sometimes I walk past them and I want to punch through the glass, want to destroy the faces of those two people who had no idea what was coming. But mostly I just feel sad for the woman in that dress. She looks so happy. She has no idea she's married to a ghost. Life continued. I worked my shifts at the hospital. He worked his mysterious hours at the accounting firm. We adopted Murphy, the golden retriever, because we couldn't have children and needed something to nurture. We talked about maybe trying IVF again, maybe looking into adoption. He always had a reason to delay. Let's wait until the economy stabilizes. Let's wait until I get promoted. Let's wait until we're in a better place financially. I should have known. All those delays, all those excuses, they weren't about money or timing. They were about maintaining his freedom. You can't juggle 47 women when you have a baby at home. 47. I've counted them 4 times now. The number doesn't get smaller. 6 days ago started like any other Saturday. David left early for his men's league basketball game, a weekly ritual he'd maintained for years. He'd come home sweaty and energized, usually around noon, and we'd spend the afternoon together, doing mundane couple things. Grocery shopping, maybe a movie, the comfortable routine of a long marriage. But that Saturday, Murphy got sick. Not dramatically sick, just one of those doggy stomach issues that required immediate outdoor access. I was cleaning up his mess when my phone rang. David's mom. "Hi, Carol, everything okay?" "Oh, Sarah, I'm glad I caught you. Listen, I found David's old photo albums in the garage from high school. I thought he might want them for his office. Is he around?" "He's at basketball." "Basketball?" She sounded confused. "But isn't that Thursday?" My heart did something strange. A little skip, a flutter of wrongness. "No, it's always been Saturday mornings." "Really? I could have sworn. Well, I'm getting old. Memory's not what it used to be. Anyway, can you have him call me when he gets back?" "Sure, Carol." I stood there in my kitchen, phone in hand, Murphy whimpering at my feet. Basketball was always on Saturdays, wasn't it? I pulled up my calendar, scrolled back through weeks, months. Every Saturday morning, blocked out time. David, basketball. But Carol's confusion nagged at me. She wasn't old, only 62, sharp as ever, and she'd been to some of David's games over the years, hadn't she? I tried to remember the last time I'd actually seen David play basketball, or the last time he'd introduced me to someone from his league, or the last time he'd mentioned a teammate's name. Nothing. There was nothing. My hands started shaking. I told myself I was being paranoid again, that Dr. Chen would be disappointed in my spiral, but I couldn't stop. I called David, straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail, 3rd time. "Hey babe, sorry, can't talk. We're in the middle of a game. Everything okay?" In the background, I heard silence. No squeaking shoes, no bouncing balls, no voices calling plays. Just silence and maybe, the distant sound of music. Soft music. Your mom called. She wants you to call her back. Sure thing, I'll call her when I'm done here. Love you. He hung up before I could respond. I stood there, Murphy's mess forgotten, a cold certainty settling into my bones. I walked to our bedroom, to David's nightstand, and opened the drawer. His real phone, the iPhone he carried everywhere, wasn't there. Of course not. He had it with him. But underneath his chargers and old receipts, I found something else, a key. Small, silver, with a plastic tag attached. The tag was from a storage facility across town. Unit 347. We don't have a storage unit. We've never had a storage unit. Our house has a basement, an attic, a 2-car garage. We don't need storage. I took the key. The drive to the storage facility took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of my brain trying to explain away what I was doing. Maybe it was for work. Maybe he was storing old files. Maybe it was a surprise, an anniversary gift he was hiding. My imagination tried every possible innocent explanation. None of them felt true. The facility was one of those massive, impersonal places with rows of identical orange doors. Security was a joke, just a keypad code that I guessed on the second try. David always used the same 4 digits, 0729, my birthday. Unit 347 was at the end of a long hallway. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, and somewhere in the building I could hear a door slamming. I stood in front of that orange door for a full minute, key in hand, before I finally turned the lock. The door rolled up with a metallic screech. Inside was a life I didn't recognize. Not a double life, a triple life, maybe a quadruple one. I lost count. The unit was organized like a filing cabinet. Plastic bins lined the walls, each one labeled with a woman's first name. Jessica was near the front. Amanda. Rebecca. Katie. Melissa. They went on, an alphabet of betrayal. I opened Jessica's bin first, my hands trembling so badly I nearly dropped the lid. Inside, photos of them together, printed and dated. Restaurant receipts, movie ticket stubs. A stuffed bear with a tag that read, "To my Jess, love always, David." And a notebook, an actual physical notebook where David had apparently documented every conversation, every date, every lie he'd told her. Met at coffee shop near her office. Said I was recently divorced, working through custody battle. Showed her photos of my daughter Emma, actually stock photo from iPhone. First date, Italian place on 5th. Ordered the carbonara. She loved it. Built rapport over shared interest in hiking. Note, schedule next date around Sarah's Tuesday night shift. I read every word, then I opened Amanda's bin, then Rebecca's. Each one was the same. Meticulous documentation, photos, mementos, a catalog of fabricated intimacy. Some women he'd seen for months, others for years. A few bins held just a handful of items, relationships that hadn't developed or women who'd caught on quickly. And in the back, 3 bins that made my blood run cold. Emily, Sophie, and Thomas. Children's names. Inside Emily's bin was a birth certificate. Emily Rose Henderson, born 3 years ago. Mother, Rachel Henderson. Father, David Mitchell. Sophie's bin held school photos, a report card, drawings signed with her name. She was 6. Thomas's bin was newer, sparser. He was only 10 months old, according to the paperwork. His mother was someone named Danielle. 3 children, 3 women who believed David was their partner, their co-parent, their future. 3 mothers who had no idea they were sharing him with 44 other women and a legal wife who thought she knew her husband. I sat on the concrete floor of that storage unit, surrounded by evidence of a 15-year con, and I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process the magnitude of what I was seeing. How? That was the only word in my head. How was this possible? How had he maintained this? How had I never known? I pulled out my phone and started taking photos. Every bin, every document, every receipt and note and piece of evidence. My phone's memory was almost full by the time I finished. I must have taken over 1,000 photos. Then I found the phone. It was in a bin labeled logistics, tucked beneath burner flip phones, prepaid credit cards. and what looked like a handwritten schedule that rivaled NASA's mission planning. But this phone was different, newer, a smartphone. When I pressed the power button, it lit up. No password. The Messages app showed 47 active conversations. 47 women, each one believing they had some version of David's attention, his love, his commitment. I scrolled through them, my vision blurring with tears, my stomach churning. Can't wait to see you tonight, baby. Sorry I missed your call. Work has been crazy. I've been thinking about our future together. You mean everything to me. The same lines, over and over. Copy-pasted affection, mass-produced intimacy. He had templates for everything. Good morning messages, apologies, seduction. It was efficient, clinical, like he'd turned romance into a spreadsheet. Because of course he had. He was an accountant. Organization was his superpower. I found the calendar app next, color-coded, cross-referenced. Sarah was in blue, my work schedule, our plans, our life. But interwoven through the blue were dozens of other colors. Jessica, dinner, 7 p.m. Amanda, coffee, lunch break. Rachel, Emma's soccer game, 2 p.m. He'd scheduled his lies down to the 15-minute increment, and I realized with sickening clarity, David didn't have a basketball game every Saturday. He had a rotation. Some Saturdays he saw Jessica, some he saw Amanda or Katie or whichever woman was expecting him that week. He'd probably played actual basketball once or twice years ago, just to make the sweat smell authentic. I checked his location history. The app showed everywhere he'd been for the past year. The coffee shop where he'd met someone named Lydia every Tuesday. The apartment complex where someone named Vanessa lived. The park where he apparently took his daughter, Emma, to play. Everything was documented. Everything was planned. He'd built a machine, and I was just one cog in it. I sat in that storage unit for 3 hours. 3 hours of scrolling through messages, reading his notes, piecing together the architecture of his deception. Murphy was home alone, probably wondering where I was. David would be back from his fake basketball game soon. But I couldn't move. I was paralyzed by the sheer scale of it. Here's what I learned in those 3 hours. David had been doing this since before we got married. Jessica wasn't the first. She wasn't even in the first 10. The earliest bin I found was dated 14 years ago, 1 year into our relationship. A woman named Christine. He told her he was single, working toward a promotion, looking for something serious. She'd lasted 6 months before she moved to Seattle for work. He kept her goodbye letter. I'll never forget what we had, it read. You made me believe in love again. He'd made 47. Women believe in love. 50, if you counted me and the 3 mothers of his children. The children part destroyed me in a way the affairs couldn't. Affairs I could understand. Horrible, unforgivable, but comprehensible. Men cheat, it happens. But children? He'd created entire human beings, brought them into this world, and then compartmentalized them into plastic bins. Emily was 3 years old. 3. And according to his notes, he saw her once a month, told Rachel he traveled for work, sent child support payments from a separate bank account I didn't know existed. Sophie, the 6-year-old, believed her daddy worked on oil rigs. That's why he was gone so much. That's why he couldn't come to her dance recitals or birthday parties. Thomas, the baby, probably didn't know his father existed beyond a monthly visit where David played the role of the devoted dad, trying his best despite a complicated custody situation. 3 children who would grow up with daddy issues. 3 children who would spend thousands on therapy trying to understand why their father was never really there. And David had calculated this. He'd decided the emotional damage he'd inflict on these kids was worth the thrill of maintaining his system. That's when I stopped crying and started planning. I took the phone, left everything else exactly as it was. I might need that storage unit as evidence later. Locked the door, drove home. David's car was in the driveway. It was 12:47 p.m., right on schedule. I found him in the kitchen, making a sandwich. He was still in his basketball clothes, athletic shorts and a t-shirt that was suspiciously not sweaty. Murphy was at his feet, tail wagging. Traitor dog. Hey, David smiled when he saw me. Where'd you go? I got back and you weren't here. Just ran some errands. My voice sounded normal. I was surprised by how normal it sounded. How was the game? Good. We won by 12 points. I even made a 3-pointer. He took a bite of his sandwich, turkey and Swiss, the same combination he'd been eating since college. You okay? You look pale. I'm fine. Just tired. Long week at work. He walked over and kissed my forehead. His lips felt like ice. Or maybe I was the cold one now. Why don't you take a nap? I'll walk Murphy and then we can do something fun this afternoon. Maybe catch that new movie you wanted to see. That sounds nice. I watched him finish his sandwich, watched him gather Murphy's leash, watched him head out the door for their walk. The same man I'd trusted with my entire life. The same man who'd held me through my father's funeral, who'd sat with me through 3 miscarriages, who'd promised me forever on a lake surrounded by everyone we loved. A stranger wearing my husband's face. When he left, I went to our bedroom and started my own documentation. I created a new email account David didn't know about. Uploaded every photo from the storage unit, every message from the secret phone. I created a spreadsheet, fighting fire with fire, listing every woman, every date I could verify, every child. I cross-referenced his credit card statements that I'd always had access to, but never looked at closely. Sure enough, charges to restaurants I'd never been to, florists I'd never received flowers from, jewelry stores where I'd never gotten gifts. He had a second credit card. Of course he did. Probably several. The bank statements I found in his email, I'd always had his password. He'd given it freely. Another layer of false transparency. Showed regular transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. Child support for Emily, Sophie, and Thomas. Rent for at least 3 different apartments. Subscriptions to dating services. He was spending roughly $8,000 a month maintaining his empire of lies. We made good money combined, but not that good, which meant he had income I didn't know about. I dug deeper, found a Venmo account under a slightly different name, David Mitchell, no second L. He was doing freelance accounting work, getting paid under the table, depositing it to separate accounts. The money trail went back years. This wasn't impulsive. This wasn't a midlife crisis or a moment of weakness. This was premeditated, ongoing, systematic fraud. Against me, against 46 other women, against his own children. I had 2 choices: confront him immediately and watch him spin more lies, or gather enough evidence that lying became impossible. I chose option 3, destroy him so completely he'd never be able to do this to anyone else. That night, I was perfect. I made his favorite dinner, pot roast with carrots and potatoes, opened a nice bottle of wine, laughed at his jokes, asked about his day. We watched a movie curled up on the couch, Murphy between us, and to anyone watching, we looked like the picture of marital contentment. I love you, David said during a commercial break. You know that, right? I know, I said. Sometimes I feel like I don't say it enough. But Sarah, you're my everything, my rock. I don't know what I'd do without you. I smiled and kissed him. You'll never have to find out. We made love that night. I initiated it, which surprised him. Our sex life had been routine for years, perfunctory. But that night I was different, and he noticed. Afterward, he held me close and said, "What's gotten into you? Not that I'm complaining." "Just feeling grateful," I said, "for what we have." He fell asleep quickly, snoring softly, his arm heavy across my waist. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, his secret phone hidden under my side of the mattress, my mind racing through scenarios. I could go to the police. But what crime had he technically committed? Adultery isn't illegal. Being a terrible person isn't illegal. The child support suggested he was meeting his financial obligations to his kids, even if he was an absent father. The separate accounts were shady, but not necessarily illegal if he was reporting the income. I could divorce him, take half of everything in court, expose him to our friends and family. But half of what? Our shared accounts had maybe $30,000. Our house had equity, but not enough to rebuild my life. And David was smart. He'd hidden his real assets well. I'd walk away with pennies while he kept his empire. No, I needed something bigger, something that would hurt him the way he'd hurt me, the way he'd hurt all of us. I needed to find the others. Monday morning, I called in sick to work. David left for his office at 7:45 a.m., right on schedule. As soon as his car disappeared around the corner, I grabbed the secret phone and started making a list. 47 women, but some were clearly more significant than others. The bins in the storage unit told a story. Some relationships were years old, deeply involved. Others were newer, still in the honeymoon phase. I needed to prioritize. Rachel Henderson, Emily's mother. She'd been with David for 4 years. Her bin was full of family photos, vacation pictures, evidence of a real committed relationship. She thought they were engaged, based on a text conversation from 3 months ago, where David had sent a picture of a ring and said, "Soon, baby, soon." Vanessa Park, no kids, but her bin went back 5 years. She was a lawyer, according to her business card that David had saved. Smart. Probably had resources. She'd texted him just yesterday. "Can't wait for our weekend trip to Napa. 2 months. I've already started packing." Melissa Rodriguez, Thomas's mother. The baby was only 10 months old, which meant she'd been pregnant while David and I were in couples therapy, working on our marriage. Her texts were desperate, angry. "You promised you'd be here more after he was born. He needs his father." And Jessica, the one who'd called me 3 years ago. She was still in his rotation. According to the phone, he'd seen her twice in the past 2 weeks. Her bin had grown since that first phone call. She'd believed his lies, forgiven his divorce complications, stayed. I started with Rachel. Finding her was easy. David's notes had her address, phone number, workplace. She lived in a townhouse 40 minutes away, worked as an elementary school teacher. I drove there Tuesday afternoon, parked across the street, and watched. At 3:30 p.m., she pulled up in a Honda Civic with a car seat in the back. She looked exhausted, carrying grocery bags and a diaper bag, struggling to unlock her door while keeping Emily from running into the street. My heart broke watching her. She looked like me 3 years ago, stressed, overwhelmed, but still holding it together because she had to. Because she had a child depending on her, a child whose father was probably texting another woman at that exact moment. I waited until she got Emily inside, then I walked up and knocked. Rachel answered, holding Emily on her hip. Up close, I could see the dark circles under her eyes, the spit up on her shoulder, the way her smile faltered when she saw a stranger at her door. "Can I help you?" "My name is Sarah Mitchell," I said. "I'm David's wife." The color drained from her face. Emily, sensing her mother's distress, started to whimper. I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." I kept my voice gentle. "Can I come in? I think we need to talk." She should have slammed the door in my face. Should have called the police or David or anyone, but she didn't. She stepped aside and let me in because some part of her had always known. Some part of every woman he'd lied to had always known. We sat in her living room, Emily playing with blocks on the floor between us. I showed Rachel my wedding certificate, photos from our wedding, our shared bank statements, proof that I wasn't some delusional ex-girlfriend, but a legal spouse who'd been in the picture the entire time she'd known David. "He told me you were divorced," she whispered. "He said it was finalized 2 years before we met. He showed me papers." Forged, probably. We've never been divorced. We're still very much married. "But Emily, he's on her birth certificate. He sends money every month. He visits. He told me he was trying for custody, but you were making it difficult." "I don't have children, Rachel. I've never been pregnant successfully. Emily is his daughter, but I didn't know she existed until 4 days ago." I watched her process this, watched the architecture of her life crumble in real time. She'd built everything on the foundation of David's lies, her plans for their future, her co-parenting strategy, her daughter's relationship with her father. And now that foundation was revealed as smoke. "How many?" she finally asked. "How many others?" 46 other women, 3 children including Emily, and me. She made a sound I'll never forget. Something between a sob and a laugh, the noise humans make when reality becomes too absurd to process. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want to stop him. I want to make sure he can't do this to anyone else, and I need your help." "My help?" Documentation, evidence, testimony, if it comes to that. I'm building a case, not just for divorce, but for fraud, for whatever charges might stick. But more than that, I leaned forward. I want to find all of them. Every woman he's lied to. I want to expose him completely, make sure everyone knows who David Mitchell really is. Rachel looked at Emily, who was contentedly stacking blocks, oblivious to the fact that her entire world was shifting. What happens to her? To us? I don't know, I admitted. But whatever happens, it'll be built on truth instead of lies. That has to count for something. She was quiet for a long time. Then she nodded. What do you need me to do? Rachel was the first. Over the next 3 days, I found 5 more. Vanessa, Jessica, Melissa, and 2 others, Amanda and Katie. Each conversation was its own devastation. Each woman had believed David was her future. Each one had signs she'd ignored, red flags she'd explained away, intuition she'd suppressed because she wanted to believe in the fairy tale he was selling. Vanessa, the lawyer, had been planning a wedding. She'd bought a dress, booked a venue, sent save the dates to her family. David had told her he wanted to elope, just the 2 of them, somewhere romantic. She'd been days away from canceling everything, disappointing everyone, for a man who was simultaneously planning 3 other futures. Jessica had gotten pregnant. She'd miscarried at 8 weeks, and David had held her through it, promised her they'd try again when the time was right. She was taking prenatal vitamins, tracking her cycle. She'd turned down a job opportunity in another state because David had asked her to stay. Melissa was drowning. Thomas had colic. She was behind on rent. David's child support barely covered diapers. She'd been begging him for more help, more time, more presence. He'd been promising to sort things out with me, his supposed ex-wife who was making his life difficult. Amanda had loaned him $15,000 to help with his mother's medical bills. Carol had been healthy as a horse. Katie had introduced him to her parents, her siblings, her entire extended family at Thanksgiving. They loved him. They asked when he was going to propose. Each woman's story was a knife to my heart, but also fuel for my rage, because I saw myself in every one of them. Smart, capable women who'd been deceived by a man who'd made lying into an art form. We met at Vanessa's house on Friday night, the 6 of us who'd been found so far. It felt like the world's worst support group. We sat in her living room, drinking wine, sharing stories, and slowly the shock gave way to anger. How do we do this? Vanessa asked. She was already thinking like a lawyer, taking notes on a legal pad. What's the end game? Public exposure, I said. Complete and total destruction of his reputation. I want everyone who's ever known him to see exactly who he is. I want him arrested, Melissa said. What he did has to be illegal somehow. Fraud, maybe, Vanessa said. The forged divorce papers, the separate identity he was using for freelance work, the false pretenses he used to borrow money. We need to document everything, build an airtight case. It's possible, but it'll take time. What about the others? Rachel asked. The other 40 women, we need to find them all. I pulled out the secret phone. I have their numbers, most of them anyway, but we need to be strategic. If we contact them all at once, someone might warn David. He could destroy evidence, move money, disappear. So we do it simultaneously, Jessica said. Find them all first, then tell them all at once. Same day, same time. No chance for him to get ahead of it. It'll take weeks, Amanda pointed out. Maybe months. And in the meantime, he's still out there lying to all of them, including us. Then we keep playing along, I said. The words tasted like poison. We pretend we don't know. Keep our relationships with him exactly as they were. Let him think he's still in control while we build the case. The room went quiet. What I was proposing was torture, continuing to see him, talk to him, sleep with him in some cases, all while knowing the truth, acting like everything was normal while plotting his destruction. I'll do it, Rachel said finally, for Emily. She deserves to know who her father really is someday. She deserves the truth. One by one, they all agreed. The next 6 weeks were the strangest of my life. By day, I was the devoted wife. I cooked David's meals, did his laundry, maintained our perfect life. He suspected nothing. Why would he? I'd been playing this role for 15 years, but in secret, I was building an empire of my own. The 6 of us, we started calling ourselves the Alliance, dark humor being our only coping mechanism, worked methodically through David's contact list. We found 32 of the remaining 41 women. Some had moved on, ghosted him, or were no longer in contact, but 32 were active, current, believing they had a future with him. Each one required a delicate approach. We couldn't just call them out of the blue and destroy their lives. We developed a script, a gentle way of revealing the truth. Vanessa drafted legal documents proving his marriage to me, showing the interconnected web of lies. Rachel compiled medical records proving Emily's paternity. I gathered financial evidence showing the scope of his deception. We met every Tuesday night at Vanessa's house. David thought I'd joined a book club. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. I was lying to my liar husband about meeting with his other victims to plot his downfall. It felt appropriate. Some of the women we contacted took it well, or as well as anyone could. They cried, they raged, but they believed us and wanted to help. Others required more convincing. 2 denied it entirely, refused to see the evidence, blocked our numbers. One, a woman named Gabriella, actually warned David. She called him crying, told him some crazy women were claiming he was married and seeing dozens of people. David came home that night furious, not at me. I'd been careful to keep my name out of it until the right moment, but at the stalkers who were harassing his friends. Some psycho is calling people I know, he ranted, pacing our living room, making up insane stories, claiming I am married to you, obviously, but saying I'm running some kind of con. It's unhinged. I think maybe it's that Jessica woman from years ago. Remember her? The one who called you claiming we were dating. I made sympathetic noises, suggested he call the police. He said he might, if it continued. Held me close and thanked me for believing in him, for not falling for the crazy rumors. I fell asleep in his arms that night and dreamed of watching his world burn. Gabriella's warning made us move faster. If David was spooked, he might start covering his tracks, destroying evidence. We accelerated the timeline, contacted the remaining women in a 48-hour blitz. By the end of week 8, we had 38 of the original 47 women confirmed and aware. 9 had moved on or couldn't be reached. 3 refused to believe us. 38 women, 3 mothers, 41 victims ready to testify to David's pattern of deception. It was time for the endgame. We planned it for December 15th, David's birthday. The symmetry was too perfect to resist. Vanessa had drafted legal documents, divorce papers for me, paternity suits for Rachel and the other mothers, fraud charges where applicable. We'd looped in reporters from 3 different news outlets who specialized in investigative journalism. One was particularly interested in the financial fraud angle, the separate identity, the undeclared income, the forged documents. But before the legal circus, before the media storm, I wanted one moment, one conversation where it was just me and David, where I could look him in the eye and watch his carefully constructed world collapse. December 15th started normally. I woke up early, made David his favorite breakfast, blueberry pancakes, crispy bacon, fresh coffee. He came downstairs in his bathrobe, Murphy trailing behind him, and smiled at the spread. You didn't have to do all this. It's your birthday. Of course I did. I kissed his cheek. 39. Getting old, Mr. Mitchell. Don't remind me. He sat down, started eating. Between bites. So, I was thinking, maybe we could do dinner tonight. That new steakhouse downtown. I made reservations for 7. Actually, I have something planned. A surprise. For this afternoon. His eyes lit up. He loved surprises. Loved being the center of attention. Yeah? What is it? If I told you, it wouldn't be a surprise, but trust me, you're going to remember this birthday for the rest of your life. At 2 p.m., I drove David to a hotel conference room downtown. He kept asking questions, playful and curious, but I deflected them all. When we pulled into the parking lot, he looked confused. A hotel? Sarah, what? Come on, everyone's waiting. I led him through the lobby, down a carpeted hallway to conference room B. The door was closed. I could hear voices inside, dozens of voices. "Is this a surprise party?" David's face broke into a delighted grin. "You got everyone together. Babe, you didn't have to." I opened the door. The conference room was full. 41 women sat in rows of chairs, all facing the door. Rachel held Emily on her lap. Melissa had Thomas in a car seat at her feet. Vanessa stood at the front like a prosecutor, ready to deliver opening statements. In the back, I saw the reporters, cameras ready. Every face turned toward David as we walked in. His smile faltered. "Sarah, what is this?" "This," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart, "is everyone you've been lying to." I watched the color drain from his face as recognition set in. He saw Jessica, then Amanda, then Rachel. His eyes darted around the room, doing the math, and I could see the exact moment he understood. "Sarah, I can explain." "No," I held up my hand. "You can't. You've had 15 years to explain. Now it's our turn to talk. Sit down, David." This is insane. I don't even know most of these people." "David Mitchell." Vanessa's lawyer voice cut through the room. "You know every person in this room intimately. You've dated, seduced, impregnated, stolen from, or married each of us. We have documentation of everything. Financial records, text messages, photographs, testimony. The question isn't whether you know us. The question is whether you want to sit down willingly or have hotel security escort you to a seat." He stood frozen, a deer in headlights. Then slowly, mechanically, he walked to the empty chair we'd placed front and center. He sat. For the next 3 hours, we told our stories. Each woman stood and shared how David had entered her life, what he'd promised, what he'd taken. Rachel talked about raising Emily alone, believing David was fighting for custody. Melissa described going into labor with no one to call because David was working late, probably with me or Jessica or any of the others. Amanda described watching her savings disappear, money she'd loaned for medical bills that didn't exist. Katie talked about the engagement ring he'd shown her, the same ring we'd later discovered that he'd promised to at least 6 other women. Jessica, who'd called me 3 years ago, stood last. "I tried to tell you," she said, looking at me with tears streaming down her face. "I tried to warn you, and he convinced me I was crazy. He made me doubt my own reality. I'm so sorry I didn't try harder." "You have nothing to apologize for," I told her. "He made liars of all of us." Through it all, David sat silent. His face cycled through emotions: shock, denial, anger, fear. But he said nothing. What could he say? The evidence was overwhelming. 41 women, all with identical stories, all with proof. When the last woman finished speaking, I stood and walked to the front of the room. I looked at my husband, or the stranger wearing my husband's face, and I pulled out one final document. "This is a divorce petition. I'm citing adultery, fraud, emotional abuse, and financial infidelity. The house, the accounts, everything we built together. I'm taking half. But that's not the part that should worry you." I nodded to Vanessa. She stepped forward with a stack of papers. "These are paternity suits from Rachel Henderson, Melissa Rodriguez, and Jennifer Kim, Sophie's mother. You've been making minimal child support payments, far below what you legally owe given your actual income. We've subpoenaed your bank records, traced your freelance accounts, and calculated your true earnings. You owe approximately $340,000 in back child support. Additionally, Amanda Marsh is filing fraud charges for the $15,000 you borrowed under false pretenses, and the IRS will be receiving a full report on your undeclared income." David's face went white. "You can't! This is—" "We already did," I said. "The paperwork has been filed. The reporters have the story. By tonight, everyone will know who you are. Your clients, your coworkers, your mother, everyone." "Mom?" For the first time, real panic entered his voice. "You told my mother?" "Carol deserves to know who her son really is. She's being notified as we speak." He stood abruptly, looked around the room at 41 faces staring back at him with various expressions of anger, disgust, and pity. This is entrapment. You can't ambush someone like this. It's illegal. It's not entrapment when you actually committed the crimes, David, Vanessa said. That's just evidence gathering. He turned to me, and for a moment I saw something real in his eyes. Not the performer, not the liar, but the actual person underneath. And that person was scared. Sarah, please, don't do this. We can work this out. Counseling, therapy, whatever you want, I'll stop, I'll change, You won't, I said quietly. This is who you are. This is who you've always been. The only difference is now everyone knows. He looked around the room one more time, seeing his empire crumbling, and then he did what he did best. He ran, pushed past the chairs, shoved through the door, and disappeared into the hallway. We let him go. There was nowhere to run to. His life as he knew it was over. The aftermath was chaos. The story broke that evening. Local accountant maintained relationships with dozens of women simultaneously. And by morning, it had gone viral. David's face was everywhere. News sites, social media, think pieces about modern dating and sociopathy. He became a cautionary tale, a meme, a symbol of everything wrong with toxic masculinity. His accounting firm fired him within 24 hours. Most of his clients dropped him immediately. The few who remained were gone within a week. His reputation was obliterated. He'd spent 15 years building a house of cards, and we'd knocked it down in an afternoon. The legal battles took months. The divorce was finalized in 4 months. I got the house, half of all marital assets, and alimony. His hidden accounts were seized to pay back child support. The fraud charges against him resulted in probation and restitution. The IRS hit him with fines that would take years to pay off. But the real punishment was social. David couldn't show his face anywhere without being recognized. Someone made a website cataloging his lies. The Alliance, what we still called ourselves, started a support group that grew to include victims of similar deceptions. We were invited to speak at conferences, wrote articles, turned our pain into advocacy. Rachel, Melissa, and Jennifer, the 3 mothers, formed their own support network. They helped each other with childcare, shared resources, built the community that David had denied them. Emily, Sophie, and Thomas would grow up knowing their father's story, but they'd also know they had mothers who fought for truth. As for me, I sold the house. Couldn't stay there, couldn't walk through rooms where I'd played the part of the perfect wife to a man who didn't exist. I bought a small condo, got a dog, a rescue named Luna, who has attachment issues and separation anxiety, and we're perfect for each other. I still work as a pediatric nurse. I still see families every day, watch parents love their children, witness the small intimacies that make up a real relationship. It doesn't hurt the way it used to. Mostly, I feel grateful. Grateful I found out. Grateful I got out. Sometimes patients ask if I'm married. I tell them I used to be and leave it at that. Some nights, I wonder what David is doing now, if he's rebuilt somewhere, if he's still lying, if he learned anything. But mostly, I don't think about him at all. The other day, I ran into Jessica at a coffee shop. We hugged like old friends, which, in a strange way, we are. Trauma bonded, survivors of the same disaster. She told me she's seeing someone new, someone honest and boring and completely transparent. How do you trust again? She asked me. After everything? I don't know if I do, I admitted. But I trust myself now. I trust my instincts. And if I'm ever in doubt, I have 40 other women who will tell me I'm not crazy. She laughed at that. We should all get matching tattoos. I survived David Mitchell, and all I got was this lousy support group. Too long for a tattoo, I said, but I like the spirit. Here's what I want you to understand. Whoever you are watching this, if you're in a relationship right now and something feels off, if there are gaps in their schedule, unexplained absences, phones they guard too carefully, trust that feeling. You're not paranoid. You're not crazy. You're not asking too much. Red flags look like red flags for a reason. David was exceptional at deception, but he wasn't unique. There are thousands of people out there running similar schemes, maintaining double lives, trading in intimacy like it's currency. They're not all as elaborate as David. Some are smaller scale, just one affair, one secret family, one hidden addiction. But the pattern is the same. They count on your love, your trust, your willingness to see the best in them. They count on you not looking too closely. After everything, people asked me how I didn't know, how I missed the signs for 15 years. And the truth is, I saw them. I saw all of them. The late nights, the unexplained charges, the suspicious phone calls. But I explained them away because I loved him, because I'd built a life with him, because admitting the truth meant admitting I'd wasted the better years of my life on a lie. That's the real cruelty of it. Not just the deception, but the way it makes you complicit in your own betrayal, the way it turns your love into a weapon against yourself. But here's what I learned. You can survive the truth. It'll break you. It'll absolutely shatter you into pieces, but you can put yourself back together. And when you do, you'll be stronger for the breaking. You'll know exactly how much you can endure. You'll know your worth isn't tied to someone else's capacity to see it. The 41 of us, we talk about this a lot, about who we were before and who we are now. Most of us agree we miss the innocence, the ability to trust blindly, but we wouldn't go back. We know too much now. We've seen behind the curtain, and there's power in that knowledge, even when it hurts. It's been 2 years since the conference room confrontation. 2 years since I held that secret phone in a storage unit and watched my marriage dissolve into pixels and evidence. Sometimes it feels like a lifetime ago. Sometimes it feels like yesterday. I still have the phone. It's in a box in my closet, along with the key to the storage unit, some photos, the divorce papers. I don't look at it often, but I need to know it's there. Proof that I'm not crazy, that it all really happened, that I survived something extraordinary and came out the other side. David tried to contact me once, about 6 months ago. An email from a new address. He said he was sorry, that he was getting help, that he wanted me to know he understood what he'd done. He said he thought about me every day, wondered how I was doing, hoped I'd found peace. I deleted it without responding. He doesn't get to know how I'm doing. He doesn't get closure or forgiveness or any more pieces of me. He had 15 years of my life. That's all he gets. The Alliance still meets once a month. We've added new members, not all David's victims, but women who found us through the media coverage and saw their own stories reflected in ours. Women who'd been gaslit, deceived, manipulated by partners they trusted. We share resources, support each other through court dates and therapy sessions, and the hard work of rebuilding. Last month, we celebrated Rachel's news. Emily started kindergarten and drew a picture of her family. In the picture, Rachel stands in the center, holding Emily's hand. Around them are drawn aunties Vanessa, Jessica, Melissa, Sarah, and a dozen others, the alliance that became Emily's extended family. David doesn't appear in the drawing at all. Rachel cried when she showed us, happy tears. "She's going to be okay," Rachel said. "We all are." And you know what? I think she's right. If there's a lesson in all of this, beyond the obvious, don't trust sociopaths who compartmentalize humans like file folders. It's this. Your life can change in an instant. One phone call, one hidden key, one moment of clarity. Everything you thought was true can be revealed as fiction, and you have to decide what you're going to do about it. You can ignore it, pretend you didn't see what you saw, go back to sleep and hope the nightmare stays hidden. A lot of people choose that. I don't judge them for it. Sometimes the truth is too expensive, or you can burn it all down, blow up your life, expose the lies, and build something new from the ashes. It'll hurt. God, it'll hurt worse than anything you've ever experienced. But on the other side of that pain is freedom. Real freedom, not the illusion of safety. I chose the fire. Some days I regret it. I miss the innocence, the naive version of myself who believed in the fairy tale. But most days I'm grateful. I know exactly who I am now. I know what I'm capable of surviving. I know I'm not defined by the worst things someone else did to me. David Mitchell gave me 15 years of lies, but he also gave me something he never intended. A community of women who refused to be silenced, a platform to help others, and a story that might save someone else from walking the same path. So to whoever you are, watching this, if you found yourself holding a secret phone, discovering hidden messages, realizing the person you love has been playing you, I'm sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry. But you're going to survive this. You're going to be okay. And maybe when you're ready, you'll tell your story too. Because that's how we stop them. Not by staying silent, not by protecting their reputations or hiding our shame, but by speaking the truth, loudly and clearly, until everyone knows we see you, we survived you, and we're not your victims anymore. We're the ones who got away.